Even in Texas, where you're seeing some of these really close races, closer than they ought to be. It's starting to happen slowly, but it's starting to happen, and I would say Donald Trump, even while he prevailed in Florida, even while he may have prevailed in Georgia, these are not comforting results in a midterm election.
Let me throw some water on this. Democrats don't do well in rural America thesis that we're espousing here, because if I'm not mistaken, I do think that Sherrod Brown won re-election handily in Ohio. Democrats own Virginia, and Virginia is not the most metropolitan state out there. North Carolina, Democrats have a Democratic governor and attorney general, et cetera, and so it's not as if Democrats are not doing well in rural America. Democrats can do better in rural America. But the map has fundamentally changed, to Gloria's point. Do you remember, you do remember this, in 2008, we were talking about Indiana, Missouri, we were talking about Iowa, Ohio, Pennsylvania, all of these swing states. It was a list of 11 or 12. And now when we get to 2020, we're going to be talking about Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Florida as your top tier. And you're going to then move to the second tier. Some of these other areas, you'll have North Carolina. I mean, I don't even know if Virginia's there anymore. But you have these places, Ohio, where Democrats are doing extremely well because Democrats are engaging a new demographic. And that's why they'll do well. The Democrats are engaging a new demographic in Nevada, in Arizona, in North Carolina, in Virginia. And if they can get that blue wall, then they have a roadmap to win.
Yeah, and so I'd say to that point, Democrats have abandoned that traditional working class, labor, blue collar vote, right? I always say that 2016 the president won because the Big Short voters, right? The book and the movie, that part of America was left behind by Wall Street. The folks that had their houses foreclosed on and the banks kind of took advantage. I think people watched those movies and said, hey, I identify with that. And the president went into those states and he had a message, an economic opportunity that really resonated with that voters. If the president doesn't get back to that, there will be problems. I think we'll return to that message. It's the only one you're going to win with in 2020, regardless of who the candidate is.
Here's what I am worried about for Republicans going into 2020. What we saw from 2018 is that the Democrats were very willing to run different kind of candidates in different kind of races. Look at the governor who won in Michigan and got those Hillary Clinton voters back in the Democratic column. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, his speech the day after the election was essentially a scolding for Republicans who did not get in line. He danced on the grave of Mia Love, who her race has not been called. And by the way, she's a lovely person. She is a Black Republican woman. He should be thanking her for being Republican in this party today, and still he would not let her be the kind of candidate that she felt she needed to be to win that race. And if you put this in a nutshell, where does this go? You have women like Barbara Comstock and Mia Love losing, potentially, Paul Ryan retiring, and candidates like Chris Collins and Duncan Hunter, who have been indicted, winning. That is
Well, that's because of ridiculous.